My name is Pam Powell. I'm the CEO of Wasaga Beach Public Library. I'd like to welcome you here to our brand new facility. I hope you like it, because we certainly do. We opened in January. If you didn't get a chance to tour earlier tonight, please find an opportunity to take a look. We're pretty proud. I would like to welcome you to Georgian Bay Reads. This is a fantastic battle of the books, probably the best battle staged in Simcoe County. It's going to be an evening of witty repartee, intellectual genius, literary greatness, and maybe a few good cuss words thrown in for color and flavor. Before we get underway, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of the Wasaga Beach region. The town of Wasaga Beach acknowledges it is located upon the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the people of the Wyandot Nation also inhabited these lands. We acknowledge that these nations were sovereign nations existing before the arrival of settlers. We respect the spiritual interconnection among these nations to the land and to the water. We also acknowledge that waterways near us have a long history predating European arrival. Since time immemorial, waterways were the lifeblood of the Indigenous people by trade and hunting routes. We are dedicated to the inclusivity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in our future stewardship of the land and the longest freshwater beach in the world. In the spirit of reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity of learning to be sustainable caretakers of the land and waterways for all future generations. All right, and now I'd like to introduce this evening's All-Star Defenders. Please welcome to the stage, from Clearview Public Library, Beth Harte. Representing Collingwood Public Library, Jeff Sepukis. Representing Meaford Public Library, Charlene McLean Moody. Representing Springwater Public Library, Donna Carrick. And last but not least, our hometown favorite, representing Wasaga Beach Public Library, Jeffrey Snape. I would now like to introduce this evening's Georgian Bay Reads moderator. Please welcome Gia Lind. Last year, Gia represented Collingwood Public Library with her book selection, Good Morning Monster by Catherine Gildner. Gia's stellar debating skills saw her book crowned Georgian Bay Reads champion, and tonight Gia is back to lead this entertaining book event, and we're in good hands. Take it away, Gia.
Thank you, Pam. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Welcome to Georgian Bay Reads 2024. I'm going to try and squiggle onto this chair for a sec. So, Georgian Bay Reads brings together 5 local libraries to celebrate Canadian authors and communication between libraries in an event filled with a lively discussion, good-natured competition, and an enthusiastic audience. Let's hear enthusiasm. That's right. The collaboration is also a celebration of Ontario Public Library Week. Ontario, or libraries in general, are the backbone of our community, should be celebrated this week and every week. Yeah. Each library has a defender who has selected a book by a talented Canadian author. The defender's job is to convince fellow defenders and audience members of their book's merit in this live debate. The winning defender will bring home the trophy for their library with the honor of defending the winning book. As the moderator of tonight's debate and the winner of last year's Georgian Bay Reads, I definitely understand the defenders' challenges and excitement of this very unpredictable event. Very fun, but unpredictable. You are definitely all in for a treat. As Pam said, keep your programs for the evening. There are draws for prizes that you can all win, And included in each program is a ballot for the People's Choice Awards. So all the People's Choice Award ballot boxes are located along the wall over there, and you can vote for the defender that you would like to win. To our defenders, this evening you are encouraged to be assertive, opinionated, and defensive, but apply to the gentle person's rules of etiquette. For our first and second round of tonight's debate, each defender must write down their votes to help with fair play. Please write down the title of the book that you would like to be voted off and turn the whiteboard down. Keep it hidden until your name is called. Then you may reveal which book you are voting off and a short reason why. Should there be a voting tie in any round, the defenders of the books involved in the tie will be given a minute to plead their case, why they should remain, and everyone will vote again. But they can only vote for one of the two books involved in the tie. One last rule of housekeeping: if everybody can ensure that their phones are turned off or turned on silent before the debate begins. We have a very obnoxious bell that will be ringing very loudly throughout the evening, so let's not confuse the defenders with who's ringing and why. And to start that off, the first round begins with a brief introduction from each defender. They will be asked to introduce themselves and then introduce their book, share the title, the author, and a brief, passionate review of their book and why they chose it as the best piece of Canadian fiction, with the option to read a paragraph if their book, if they so choose. So I'll start at the end with Jeffrey Snape.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Snape, again. And in recognition of the polyglot nature of our community, je m'appelle Jeffrey Snape. And I could even do it if you wish. There we go, why? Okay. So for some reason, people call me Professor. You may recognize the name Snape. After 30 years in the computing around the world, I became a visual and performing artist in 1990. And by harnessing my lifetime hobbies, magic, acting, and the arts, I moved to Wasaga Beach in 2021, where I've been active with Friends of the Library, the artist community, the community theatre, and a quick thing here, the importance of being earnest, coming up in November, buy tickets. The Seniors Active Living Centre and various drum circles. Hi, Hildy. Hildy drums as well. At a Friends of the Library book sale, I found a book titled The Spoon Stealer by Leslie Crew, and that's my choice for today because from the title I had thought, a whodunit quick knockoff of a Christie. Imagine my surprise when it was no such thing but a magnificent example of literary work. The main character is Emmeline Darling. She's an elderly lady on whom the story opens. A second character in the opening paragraphs is Vera. She snores, gets kisses, but to paraphrase the bard, who is Vera? What is she that all these words commend her? We find out later on. After a very eventful life, Emmeline has joined a writing class where the task is to write a memoir. Her reluctant start to reading her work to the rest of the group becomes a major item because it's intriguing to them. There are some questionable things she has done, of which she's somewhat reticent to reveal, but reveal she does during the book. As a young girl in Nova Scotia, she was in a dysfunctional family, not attractive by the then standards, and she was reviled by her mother until she escaped by traveling to Britain in the First World War to find her war-wounded brother. Unfortunately, he was dead on her arrival. Imagine the character of someone of any period, but especially that time, who could make that leap. She's also the confessed spoon stealer of the title, uncontrollably, with teaspoons being stolen from celebrities of the time and from public spaces. Eventually, she reveals her time as a caregiver of a diva which had developed into a same-sex relationship. very frowned on back then, but at least concealable. She inherited that estate, had the further good fortune of inheriting the Nova Scotia farm on which she was of her birth, and is thus able to help many others. Her ability to mediate very successfully resolves all the dysfunctions she encountered along the way. I may just be an old fart, but she had me in tears most of the trip. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Donna Carrick without microphone. I hope you can hear me. And I'm one of the co-owners and operators and acquisition editor of Carrick Publishing, as well as a founding member of the Mesdames of Mayhem. And we're about to release an anthology of crime stories next weekend, in fact, titled The 13th Letter. So watch for that coming out. And also host of the Dead to Rights podcast, which is something where I speak with other writers. And the book that I chose to review here is The Maid by Nita Prose. And the reason I chose this book is because I love crime stories. They are my favorite thing. And this one is quite unique. It's set up to draw you in as a traditional light mystery, but you soon discover that it's much more than that. It's a true character development. My husband Alec and I have got 2 grandchildren who are neurodivergent, and we also have a cousin who's very close to us who is on the spectrum with Asperger's syndrome. So the protagonist of this book, Molly Gray, the maid, is neurodivergent. She has a great deal of difficulty picking up on social cues, and that hinders her greatly when a murder takes place in the hotel where she is the maid and she discovers the body. Because simple things that you or I would take for granted, body language, eye contact, words, the things that we all communicate to each other very easily, they're lost on her completely. She takes things extremely literally. And she was very close to her grandmother, but her grandmother has died. And without her grandmother, she doesn't have the guidance to help her navigate through this jungle of social innuendos and things like that. So that's the way this story starts to develop. And I found it extremely well done in exploring that particular characteristic. Also, because it's told primarily as a traditional mystery, it's a very easy read that I could recommend to anybody without having to explain, it's difficult in this way or that. I think anyone who loves a mystery would love it. Myself, I tend to more grittier crime, but I loved this book. I found it just compelling from beginning to end. So that's why I chose The Maid.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlene Moody and I'm representing the Meaford Library, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I have to say that I just loved this book, Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard. It's an inspiring memoir in which she shares her personal life as well as her scientific discoveries. And it's written in a way that she makes it really accessible to the average reader. And it tells a story of a Canadian scientist who has had a global impact. So much so that Dr. Simard has been recognized as one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in the world for 2024. Yay, Canada. Time also recognized her for spending decades researching how trees communicate via vast networks of fungi, which is beneath the forest floor, a system known as wood wide web. So wood, emphasize the wood. And these networks allowed trees to share resources and communicate about threats like drought or disease. Suzanne also discovered that mother trees, the older, larger trees, play a critical role in sustaining the ecosystems by nurturing the younger trees and fostering resilience in the forest. Now, Suzanne grew up in a logging family in BC, and despite that, her family always had an incredible respect for the forest. And as a result, in 1987, she became amongst the first cohort of women to study forestry at UBC. And then 10 years later, in 1997, she was Dr. Samard. And her findings were published in the prestigious journal called Nature. The title of her article was The Wood Wide Web, which sparked both enthusiasm and sharp criticism from the established researchers. At the time, she was battling the establishment, also battling breast cancer while raising 2 young girls. At one point, she was ready to give up, and who could blame her? Despite these challenges, her resilience and commitment shone through, making her a Canadian hero. This woman's journey really tugged at my heartstrings. At points, I got very emotional while reading her book. Her personal and professional journey reflects the same interconnectedness that she discovered in the forest. Her research and international reputation have helped to make Canada a global leader in sustainable forest management. I strongly believe that every Canadian should read this book. She's authentic, she makes her story accessible and relatable, and this book is 100% Canadian. And it made me proud of both being a Canadian as well as being a woman. And by the way, they're making a movie out of this book starring Amy Adams. But as we know, the book is always much better than the movie. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Sapoukas, and I'm here representing the Collingwood Public Library. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I just wanted to start by thanking my fellow competitors because they introduced me to some books that I probably wouldn't have read otherwise, which I think is great in the spirit of this competition. So I really do appreciate that. When asked to participate in Georgian Bay Reads, I knew that the book I was going to defend was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. Now, this book takes place years after a societal collapse following a global pandemic. The story revolves around a band of theater performers called the Traveling Symphony, who travel together performing wherever they're able. Now, if someone had asked me if I had a book recommendation of a feel-good post-apocalyptic novel, I would have said that's a weird request, but I also would have said yes. See, I wouldn't have said that before I read this book, Station 11. Although it's not all sunshine and rainbows, I would say the overall message is one of hope, which I found to be a very refreshing take on the post-apocalyptic theme. And anytime a book can challenge a genre's norms, I think that's worthy of recognition. This book spoke to me on many levels and has some powerful overarching themes. At the center of all of it, art is human. We've shown that throughout human history, no matter what our living conditions are, we are driven to be creative and artistic. Also, don't worship false prophets. Relevant today, if you might not know, a main antagonist of this book is a prophet claiming to be a conduit of God. As I said, this is relevant today as ever it has been, and this has been an issue that has plagued the entirety of human history and likely would be magnified in a post-apocalyptic setting. It also says that, if we don't teach about the past, we are doomed to repeat it. There was a hesitancy in this book for the new generation of teaching the survivors about the ways of the world before the collapse. And as we know, if we don't teach about the things in our past, even if they are painful, we are bound to repeat it. Also, one of the main things that really spoke to me with this book was the way it made me appreciate the things that we have. The vivid imagery of post-apocalyptic survivors flipping light switches in abandoned homes, fantasizing about the room filling with light. Stories being told by those from before the collapse on the miracle of air conditioning. It just came out of a vent, one of the young members would ask. So I have a little passage from the book that I can read that just it kind of illustrates this point. Okay, so she tried to imagine and place herself in that other shadow life. You walk into a room and flip a switch and the room fills with light. You leave your garbage bags on the curb and a truck comes and transports it to some invisible place. When you're in danger, you call for the police. Hot water pours from faucets. Lift a receiver or press a button on a telephone and you can speak to anyone. All of this information in the world is right there on the internet, and the internet is all around you at all times, drifting through the air like pollen on a summer breeze. There is money, slips of paper that can be traded for anything, houses, boats, perfect teeth. There are dentists. She tried to imagine this life playing out somewhere at the present moment, some parallel Kirsten in an air-conditioned room, waking from an unsettling dream of walking through an empty landscape. So this to me really kind of was parts of the book that really started to make appreciation for the things that we have every day that I just take for granted like most of us do. It kind of really illustrated the fragility of civilization, which was a pretty jarring thing to kind of take in as you're reading that book. So in summary, I found that the book found a way to deal with the collapse of society through a lens of optimism and hope, to the point where if the world does collapse, this book will be on my mind. It might even have me singing, "It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine." Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Beth Harte. I am representing the Clearview family of libraries. Tonight, I'm bringing you nonfiction. I'm bringing you junior literature, and I just want to say it is literature, and it is boundless. It is Canadian. So the adaptation is by Monique Gray Smith. However, if you really think about it, boundaries are lines created by whom? Not by our Indigenous people. So I'm bringing to you a beautiful book. The premise that I was given was, if there was one book that I could bring into outer space, go to the space station and share, what would it be? If I met an alien, what book could I share about our cultures? And therefore, I am introducing Braiding Sweetgrass. One of the first things I would like for you to do is put your hands together, please. I had an Ojibwa teacher once say, our hands are for making. And tonight, we are going to be making a new journey, a learning journey together. And we are going to be building collaboration. I will not be debating, but I will be building collaboration. This book is about you. Yes, in here you will read about a scientist and her studies, but ultimately this is about you and your relationship with Mother Earth, about your connectivity. And I'm going to come back to connections and connectivity a lot, because this book will make that difference for you. As my fellow a debater, collaboration partner has said that there should be one book that every Canadian should have. I would offer this as an alternative, especially for new Canadians, new students. Everyone should have a copy of this. This will change your perspective. You will see the world very differently. If you think about it, our perspectives today, man versus nature, part of it came from the ancient Egyptians and ancient Greeks debating about what is man, how different it is from the animals. But ultimately, Jean-Jacques Rousseau talked about nature versus nurture. We have Bacon all involved in there, separating us away from something that we are deeply, innately connected to. And so tonight I'm introducing Braiding Sweetgrass, and I'm looking forward to our journey together.
Okay, thank you all very much for that very passionate introduction of everyone's book. One more enthusiastic round of applause for the defenders. Thanks, everyone. They're feeling nervous, they're feeling excited, they're ready to get into it. So, for the first round, it is a 3-minute free-for-all. So, the defenders are provided with 3 minutes total, not 3 minutes each, to ask questions about others' choices. Overtalk and interruptions are accepted. Be honest and unmerciful. Let's begin round one.
I'd like to ask Jeff about Station 11. When did you first read it, and what was one of the most striking elements about it?
The funny thing is, I actually read this book during the pandemic before, and so it was really jarring because it seemed like there were so many parallels with what I was going through at the time, and I ended up having also some parallels in my own life with one of the main characters, Arthur Leander, and he got into acting and theater in his late 30s, and I had my first community play, Gaslight Theater, represent. I did my first play when I was 36 too, so I was having a lot of really kind of eerie almost parallels with it, and not to mention that the foresight that she had and all the similarities that actually happened when a worldwide pandemic broke out really kind of set this book home for me, and I'm almost glad I kind of read it when I did, because it really just kind of put an exclamation mark on the tension of the story.
So I'm going to interrupt you on that one.
I already finished. I was done.
As a creative artist myself, I know what it takes in terms of the emotional content and the effort to take a fledgling concept, an idea, and turn it into maturity. So I have to respect all 5 of these books because they exist. Yes. However, Station 11 is a mishmash of many great ideas of various genres, and it gets lost in trying to put them all together in a place that perhaps it doesn't belong as a whole. It's just she has a temerity to place the scene as yet another post-apocalyptic dystopian era. And it's been done so many times already, both in literature and on the screen.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you there. I think actually she did a really nice, unique spin on the post-apocalyptic genre, because that was sort of one of the reasons I really enjoyed this book, was because it was a different take on the post-apocalyptic world. I mean, we have the kind of the antithesis of this book, which would be The Road, which is just the bleakest book probably maybe ever written. So I was really appreciative that she kind of had this, back and forth of the before time and the after, and I thought that really allowed you to have that contrast of both worlds. And I thought she put it together pretty nicely in a way that allowed you to appreciate what we have while still kind of seeing that there could be some hope in a post-apocalyptic environment, which most movies or books don't really, illustrate that in their books.
You usually, well, I'm interrupting you before you interrupt.
Oh, no, you're not. I get what Jeff is saying about it being a happy mismatch. It's really a wonderful. Whoops. She's the final interrupter.
Okay, I knew round 1 would be fiery. Okay, so now it is time for the defenders to vote off their first choice. So votes are written on the whiteboards that are provided and flipped over to conceal the book that you would like to be voted off first. Keep it hidden until I call on your name, in which case you can expose your choice to the audience. You can make a short statement about why you have decided to vote off this book during this round, or you can just simply say, this book is done. Strategic maneuvers and alliances are allowed should you be so inclined. So I'll give you about, everybody's good to go? They've got their choices. Okay, as we started with the questions, we will start with Jeffrey Snape first down at the end.
What does it say?
Okay, Braiding Sweetgrass.
I felt that Braiding Sweetgrass, it's wonderful for the age group for which it's intended. It's not for me, and I suspect not for this audience either.
Okay. Donna? Okay.
I thought it was a beautifully written book, and I enjoyed it very much, but I passionately love fiction, and it's just not fiction. Sorry.
What was it?
Braiding Sweetgrass.
Okay.
I picked Station 11, and the reason for that, in the pivotal moment of hope, it's United States, not Canada. Boston, not Montreal or Toronto. Sorry.
We'll talk about that later. Okay, I voted for The Maid. Lovely little book, it really is. But it's just, I felt like it was a little too straightforward, and that's it.
And I second The Maid. And as much as I love the writing, it just did not, I could not encapsulate the beautiful learnings that I was having from braiding Sweetgrass.
Okay, round one, proving to be spicier than we thought. We have our first tie. So, defenders, if you could please erase your choices. We are now going to vote again, all 5 of you, but only for the 2 books in the tie. So you will either be voting for Braiding Sweetgrass or The Maid. You do not defend again. Or wait, no, yeah, okay, sorry, yep, my bad. Donna and Beth will both make a plea for their book. You have 1 minute each. Since we're starting to the right of the table, Donna, I'll start with you if you would like to start your 1 minute defense of your book.
Oh, thank you.
Don't pull.
Exactly.
Around the table, guys.
We're kind of tied up here, sorry. I'm going to passionately defend The Maid. As a couple of people have said, it is a linear story, it's straightforward, but I don't have any hesitancy to recommend it to any readers who like crime genre at all. There's nothing overly harsh in it for people who don't like harsh crime. It is deeply personal. It truly delves into the character, which is something that is brilliantly done by Nita Prose. And while it may not have as many angles to it as something like Station 11, it's a beautiful story, and the character is truly endearing. There's nothing about her that you won't like, I promise you. Whereas some heavier books aren't for everyone, this one's for everyone. So.
It is not fiction. It is something that you can use today, tomorrow, with your friends, with your children, with your grandchildren. Braiding Sweetgrass will impact you in such a way, more than a story of fiction such as The Maid. This will stay with you. It will be something that you will wear. Please remember Braiding Sweetgrass.
Okay, thank you both. So you will now vote for just the 2 books. So The Maid or Braiding Sweetgrass. We'll start at the opposite end now. Beth, if you would like to start us off. Okay, 1 vote for The Maid. Jeff, 2 votes for The Maid. 3 votes for The Maid. Okay. Donna, Braiding Sweetgrass. And Jeffrey, The Maid. Okay. Round of applause for Donna.
I know, I'm terrified. I want to go home.
Thank you, Donna. Okay.
The insult of making her do it herself.
Okay. Thank you very much for that first round. Donna, just to remind you, you are still able to participate in the free-for-all and asking your fellow defenders questions. You just will not be providing answers based on your own book, but you will still be invited to participate in the voting as well. So we are now going to move on to round 2. Each defender will have 3 minutes to describe your book in 3 words. So I'm going to start at the opposite now. So Beth, we're going to start with you. If you could please describe Braiding Sweetgrass in 3 words. You'll have 3 minutes.
I certainly can. It's actually on page 154, and it's called The Honorable Harvest. Never take the first. Ask permission. Listen for the answer. Take only what you need. Minimize harm. Use everything you take, share, be grateful, reciprocate the gift. Sorry, the 3 words are the honorable harvest, and I just read it for you, what that meant.
Beautiful. Thank you, Beth.
Okay, the 3 words I chose are survival is insufficient. For the people in the back, that's what that says. So that is the tagline of the Traveling Symphony. In the context of the post-apocalyptic setting of this book, these words had me questioning, what is it to be human? Well, I, and it seems Emily St. John Mandel believes, that one of the main differentiators from the other creatures that inhabit this earth is art. We've shown as a species throughout history that no matter what the culture is or what their living conditions were, we've had an intrinsic need to create and express ourselves artistically. From cave paintings to massive monuments to stone carvings, our world is riddled with examples of this. You don't even have to travel far from here for an example. Less than 4 hours away, we have the Petroglyph Provincial Park with indigenous carvings dating back thousands of years in a time where survival would have been a daily struggle. That's all to say that if the world went through an apocalyptic event such as depicted in this book, it stands to reason that artists would rise from the ashes as the Traveling Symphony did. We would, of course, be focused on the basics of survival in those initial weeks, months, and years. But when the dust starts to settle and there is an attempt to return to some normalcy, you can bet art will be a big part of that. You could argue that given the prospects of a world without any of our modern comforts, that the desire for a momentary escape would be stronger than ever. We have a quote on a plaque in our library from the artist Pablo Picasso, which I think sort of reflects this same thinking. It goes, "Art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life." Thank you.
When I think about finding the mother tree, 3 words come to mind: resilience, revolutionary, and Canadian. Resilience is a big theme in this book. Suzanne faced a lot of skepticism, battled breast cancer, faced gender biases, faced professional challenges, but she didn't back down. That determination mirrors what we see in nature, where trees and ecosystems adapt and survive through interconnected networks, even when times are tough. My second word is revolutionary. Suzanne's findings shook the very foundation of the lumber industry, which relied on clear-cutting, pesticides, and monoculture. Her research highlighted the dangers of these practices and showed that trees thrive best when they grow together like they do in natural forests. Suzanne's work revealed trees communicate and collaborate through underground fungal networks, sharing resources and supporting one another. In describing mother trees nurturing their young, she sparked the plant intelligence movement, encouraging us to rethink how we relate to nature. The last word I chose is Canadian. I chose this book because every aspect of this book is undeniably Canadian. The Canadian landscapes, especially the forests of British Columbia, are crucial to the story, highlighting the unique qualities of our forests and their global significance. Suzanne reflects on Indigenous teachings, traditional ecological knowledge, and the broader Canadian effort to acknowledge and integrate Indigenous perspectives into environmental science and policy. Once you read this book, you'll start looking at trees differently, and you'll look out there and you'll think, is that a mother tree supporting the ecosystem around it? It truly reshapes how we perceive our forests, and it reinforces our Canadian identity. Thank you.
So now we are 4. My 3 words for The Spoon Stealer are emotional, enlightening, and involving. The situations in which Emmeline finds herself are fraught with emotion. Her brother's death, her mother's abuse, the war itself, the trip to Europe, and so on. And as the back cover rightly says, full of humor, family secrets, women's friendship, lovable animals, and immense heart. And by the way, Vera, that I referred to, is a small white dog. It's enlightening because coming from a somewhat dysfunctional family myself, I felt some of the same emotions as she and saw ways in which I could perhaps have created better solutions of my own. And it's involving because given the noted comments just now, I almost became her in some of those situations, as if living my own story vicariously through hers. In today's society, this probably applies to many others. And to show the level of involvement, thank you, Paula. I can't really claim to have stolen it, but it's given to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for that round describing your book in 3 words. We are now going to move into the second round of voting. Oh, free-for-all, sorry. Wow, I'm jumping the gun on that. I'm trying to read my script and I'm like, this text is too small. I can't figure out what's going on. The joys of getting so old. Sorry. We are now going to move into the free-for-all. So with this, you're provided 3 minutes again, 3 minutes total to ask questions about others' choices, why they chose the book, criticisms about each other's choices. Again, overtalk and interruptions are acceptable. So let's begin round 2.
All right, I'll start. Well, I do really appreciate the Braiding Sweetgrass. The fact that it was an adaptation, which was the Canadian element, and I'm saying this in respect to, I understand Turtle Island, it's all, one nation and all that, but this is sort of a Canadian book competition, and I know when I'm reading that book, as much as the information is really powerful and really enjoyable to read, I couldn't help but kind of get removed from the story a bit when there was, using the Fahrenheit as the temperature. There was a lot of reference to American issues that certain trees were facing, the New England maples and so on like that. So that for me, even though I know the knowledge is great, that was still a tough thing. And I have a hard time with the fact that the initial author was American and it was adapted by a Canadian. So I guess just what was it that made you choose that over a book that was fully written by a Canadian?
Yeah, fully support that, Jeff.
Isn't it interesting how the lexicon, the language of one country versus another, but ultimately it is the lessons. It is the beautiful way that this adaptation makes it accessible. I read the first adaptation, the first book. It was very scientific. It was a little bit more removed for me. This was broken down. There's some beautiful visuals. The lessons that are brought together, the elements that are brought together, you will not find in the another Canadian book like it. That's why I wanted to bring it to the table. Should I find an alien today, I want them to have full access to this. As a new Canadian, this can be broken down very easily and digested. And again, brought into your cloth, the wellness of yourself, the connections that you have with nature. I found the adaptation very good in doing that. I realize that there is an American content, but let's please look aside from that and look at what it's actually doing. It is changing you. It is changing you back to something that is beautifully innate. We're born with it. And we need to reconnect with it.
And I want to ask Charlene something. With regards to finding the mother tree, my husband and I always joke that we're kind of from a long line of druids. We really do love trees, and I think many people in this part of the world do. One thing that struck me in finding the mother tree is the concept of the communication underground. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that?
So just as I sort of highlighted, that what happens is that there's fungi, and it's mycorrhizal fungi, and what it does is that the trees are all interconnected. And so what happens is that the trees actually the mother tree will actually communicate to the other trees in the network. And, okay.
Okay, round 2 is a little bit more informative this time. We are now going to move into the second phase of voting, for real this time. So you will again write on the whiteboard for the book of your choice. Flip it over to keep your decision concealed from the other defenders. When I call your name, you will hold up the whiteboard to reveal the book that you are voting off to the audience. Again, you can make a claim to the audience as to why you've chosen that book, or you can simply just make your statement and move on. I'll give everyone a few more seconds. Okay, I'll start in the middle this time and work my way down. So Charlene, if you would like to start us off with your choice.
Yeah, I think Station 11, sorry. But, you know, I feel bad, but, no, I do, yeah, well, kind of, not really, but, you know. Anyway, no, I picked Station 11, I guess
What I felt was it really kind of touched up on a lot of topics, but not really going into any particular topic deeply. And so it talked about religion, it just talked about all different religion, technology, everything like that. And I just felt like the book, and it didn't really connect Station 11, it was poorly integrated, the comic book. So I just felt like there's a lot of really missed opportunities in this book.
Okay, thank you, Charlene. Jeff, if you'd like to go next.
So I voted for Braiding Sweetgrass. It's just, I just couldn't get over the American part of it, and that's the toughest part. I like all these books, and so this really does hurt, but it's Braiding Sweetgrass for me this round.
Okay, Beth.
I selected the Spoon Stealer. It is fiction after all. I realize that it is based on history, and wonderful character development by all means, but how long will that character stay with you? 10 years from now, are you going to remember her? Is she going to make a difference? Is she this person that you're going to be talking about to your grandchildren and finding different ways and enveloping in your world? So that was my...
Poppycock.
Do I get,
We're going to do Jeffrey and then you, Donna. Jeffrey, if you would like to start.
Station 11.
Okay. And
It just, to me, is too much of a mishmash of ideas. It just doesn't come together, and the ending is weak. It just sort of fades out rather than having a statement, a solid statement. Sorry, Jeff.
Braiding Sweetgrass. And again, I want to say that all 5 of these books are definitely worth reading. And you may think I have a thing against Braiding Sweetgrass. I don't. It's a beautiful book. But again, I am passionate about fiction, and I think that fiction is where the true stories are. That's the nugget of truth hidden in the kernel of lies, so to speak. As for the mishmash of Station 11, I think that's the way life is. If we were rebuilding, we'd be coming at it from 100 different angles, not one. It wouldn't be coherent. Having said that, I have to tell you I loved The Spoon Stealer. I thought it was just a brilliant, brilliant book. So I'm completely torn about all 5. You could tell that I really liked The Mother Tree as well. So, but Braiding Sweetgrass it is this time.
thank you, Donna. Okay, just a quick endorsement there. Don't let it sway anybody, but we all have our favorites. We are now going to move into our second tie. So please erase your boards. The tie will be between Braiding Sweetgrass by Beth and Station 11 by Jeff. They will each have 1 minute to defend against the books, and then all 5 defenders will vote again for just those 2 remaining novels. So, Jeff, if you'd like to start.
I will. I think Donna made a great point about the mishmash of things, because life is a mishmash, in case we're not all living the same life. Mine's a mishmash. But the whole point is, I think that the fact that there wasn't a big grand statement at the end, I do take an issue with that statement in the sense that I think that was kind of the statement in itself, is that the fact that life is going to keep going, the apocalypse is still, we're still recovering from that. And I think that the author let the reader sort of dictate what they think is going to happen from there, because there's no definite answer as to what, there was not going to be a finishing moment in a book that is dealing with a circumstance like that. It was just kind of to let you kind of fill in the pieces from there, and I actually enjoyed that element of it.
Be quick, you're on orange.
I know. Oh, yeah.
In Braiding Sweetgrass, it is about connection. But if you think about all of the other stories, and they're beautiful stories, they're all about characters who are trying to find their connections. And with that, although they're fictional, the reality is we connect with them because we are also seeking those connections. And that's why I'm coming back to this wonderful book and saying, this is about you and your connections. It is wonderful that we have these lovely journeys that we're taking on fictional rides, but ultimately, the nugget of truth lies with Braiding Sweetgrass.
Okay, thank you both. We are now going to move into the voting phase, so you'll vote for either Braiding Sweetgrass or Station 11. I'll give you a couple seconds to decide your choice. Okay, everybody feeling ready? Okay, we'll start down at the end. Jeffrey, if you'd like to start us off.
Braiding Sweetgrass.
Thank you. 1 for Braiding Sweetgrass. Donna?
Braiding Sweetgrass.
2 for Braiding Sweetgrass. Charlene?
Station 11.
She's going for Station 11. Jeff?
Braiding Sweetgrass.
3 for Braiding Sweetgrass and 2 for Station 11. Thank you, Beth. Round of applause for Beth. Thank you, Beth.
It's not a kiss, Beth, it's a cross.
You can kiss it if you want. Okay, one last round of applause for Beth. And for all the defenders. So I'm going to pass it off to Pam, who just has some announcements.
It's intermission time, ladies and gentlemen. We have some wonderful refreshments back in that corner. Please partake, stretch your legs, and don't forget to vote for People's Choice, please. We will reconvene around 8:20, at which time we'll do some door prizes. You don't want to miss that. Thank you. We're going to move into round 3 now. If the defenders can please take your seats, and Moderator Gia will take over.
Okay, everybody ready to get back into it? Had some snacks? Had some drinks? Feeling good, feeling great? I hope that the buzz of the microphone has stopped a little bit. The tech team so graciously told me that I was the problem, that I was wearing too much jewelry. The jewelry has since been taken off, so round of applause to our tech team for diagnosing me as the problem. Thanks, tech team. Okay, we're going to move into round 3. We've got 3 books left. After round 3, we're going to announce the winner of the People's Choice Awards. And then from there, we will move into the final round with the final 2 books and the final 2 defenders. So for round 3, again, they will each have 3 minutes. They are going to describe how the setting or plot of their book has an impact on the overall reading experience. So I think I started down at this end last time. We'll start with Jeff this time, if you'd like to describe how the setting or plot of your book has an impact.
Okay. So the setting in Station 11 shifts back and forth from pre- and post-societal collapse, which provides a stark contrast between the 2 worlds. This is often used to help build the characters of the book, but it also allows the reader to form a deeper appreciation for the things we take for granted in our everyday lives. But it also serves as a reminder of just how fragile civilization can be. While the realization can be a bit jarring, the author does a great job of juxtaposing that reminder with the fact that even when the world is reduced to rubble, humanity finds a way. We will still find a way to connect with one another. We will still make art together. And when we work together, we can make amazing things happen. We could possibly even rebuild things better than the way they were. And to me, that is a very comforting thought when considering the weight of such a topic. I also found myself fantasizing about the thought of a world where we don't have mortgages or jobs or commutes or taxes or anything like that, when we're reduced down to our very essence and our core, when we have nothing else in our lives but survival. it allows you to really be who you want to be. It would allow you to really lean into something that maybe you weren't able to in the past busy life that you had. So I found myself really kind of, really agreeing with that part of the book and thinking that I could really relate to that. And I found that to be a really hopeful thought. And to think of this traveling band of theater performers, that did actually give me hope that, if something does happen like this, that there will be a new world that will kind of come from the ashes that we can, actually enjoy ourselves in. So I really enjoyed that part of it, and that contrast really helped me really get into the book.
The setting of British Columbia plays a central role in finding the mother trees. BC's rugged landscapes, rich forests of the Pacific Northwest become both a literal and metaphorical backdrop for Suzanne's discovery about tree communication and forest ecology. BC's old-growth forests with their towering cedars, Douglas firs, complex ecosystems offer a vivid and immersive setting. The majestic trees, lush undergrowth, dynamic landscapes of mountain, rivers, and valleys create a sense of awe and wonder. Suzanne's descriptions of these forests go beyond mere scenery. They breathe life into the scientific revelations that she shares. The dense and diverse forest symbolizes the interconnectedness of all living things, a theme central to her findings. Additionally, the contrast being untouched wilderness in the encroachment of human activity gives the narrative a sense of urgency, as Suzanne underscores the importance of preserving these forests for their ecological importance and their role in sustaining life. Finally, BC's cultural ties to the land, including Indigenous perspectives on nature, bring even more meaning to her work. The setting actually becomes more than just the location, and it enriches the story, and it just feels like a character within itself. This connection to nature is something that every Canadian can relate to, as we all look outside our windows, and we see trees like cedars, birches, firs, reminding us of the beauty and complexity of our own backyards and surrounding area. Thank you.
Well, we're talking about the setting. Clearly, I am in Canada. So was our heroine. I vacationed in Nova Scotia a number of times, where she came from. I was born in England, where she spent a lot of time. And although not the same war, she was World War I, me for the end of World War II, with the food rationing, the unexploded ordnance, disrupted families, the property devastation, the xenophobia that comes out of a wartime, and all of those kind of things. In my case, I was resident in Coventry. It was a city that was blitzed and razed to the ground, despite the fact that prior knowledge of the happening was there in the political circles. So although it was so sad at the time, it was possible, and only because it had been razed, to rebuild as a modern city centre with ring roads around it, magnificent new cathedral, the opening of which I was able to attend. So my character Emmeline's world was very, very much the same as my own, and I think to some extent that's why I was so emotional going through it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. We are now going to move into the 3-minute free-for-all. So all 5 defenders are able to participate in the free-for-all, ask each other questions, criticisms, be assertive and opinionated. This is the second last round. So let's begin round 3.
Okay, Jeffrey. For the same reason that you thought my book kind of had an ending that didn't have an exclamation point, so to speak, I felt one of my main criticisms was the spoon stealer, was that it almost was tied up too neatly in a bow. I feel like life doesn't often end with this perfect will that gives everybody who's had a moment of, a nice time in her life was able to get the perfect little gift. Part of me just felt like that was a little disingenuous. What do you think about that?
I totally disagree.
I don't think the point of the spoon stealer was whether it was tied up properly or whether it was not. I think the point of the spoon stealer is that really good people can do sometimes things that are questionable, and it doesn't really negate the fact that they're really good people and their lives are deeply meaningful and can touch other lives. So yeah, it was tied up kind of neatly with a little bit of a bow, but that doesn't detract from the characterization of Emmeline at all. I thought it was beautifully done.
I didn't bribe her.
And if I could just kindly advocate for finding the mother tree, it is about the here and now, not about the past or the future. It is about the science of today, the science of tomorrow. However, it is truly about here and now.
Come on, you got time. Keep going. Keep going.
green, guys.
Come on,
Still
the light's
green.
still green. Yeah, let's go.
I have sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for finding the mother tree, I find that there was some times where it was very scientific, as we know, but there were times where I was reading like a paragraph 4 times. I don't know if that was me, but I'm like microbial networks, and it was a little much for me as far as maybe it was because it was when I read the book, but I found that it to be a little too scientific for a read compared to a novel where you're getting really depth into a story. I guess how would you describe that comparing to a novel that has a story, a beginning, a middle, and end kind of thing?
Yeah, it's not a beach read. And so what it is, it's actually, it's about her life and her scientific findings and the seriousness of her research. And so I think what it is that she provides the perspective that this is what's required to be a successful scientist and for your research to be accepted by the scientific community. Now, what she does is that she respects the reader's intelligence. She doesn't oversimplify it, and she doesn't patronize the reader. So it's up to the reader to decide. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, defenders, for round 3 of the free-for-all. We are now going to vote off the third book. This time there will be no whiteboards included. The defenders will go one by one and verbally state which book they would like to vote off this round. Again, if they would like to give a brief explanation as to why they chose that book, they are more than welcome, or they can simply just make their choice and move on. So we'll start at one end and we'll just go down the line. Jeffrey, if you'd like to start us off, which book would you like to vote off?
Oh, it's such a tough decision. It's got to be Station 11 has got to go.
Okay. Donna?
It's going to be Finding the Mother Tree, and again, it's because I just absolutely love fiction. For me, the truth is in the arts and in the story, and this is the way we tell ourselves truth to me.
Thank you. Charlene?
For me, it's Station 11, and I just found the characters were not overly well developed, and I didn't really feel a particular connection to any particular character.
Thank you.
I will be voting for Spoon Stealer. It's a good book. There's only 2 left. That's all I have to say on that.
Oh, this is such a struggle. I hate to say this, but Station 11, there are aspects that I think if he could do a second, if he could do there could be a second novel, just a little bit more development on some of the plots. There was a lot of flipping back and forth, and sometimes I thought if they could just slow it down a little bit. It was fast.
Where's my ex?
Round of applause for Jeff from Collingwood Library. Good job, Jeff. Thank you to all of the defenders for a fun round 3. Okay. One more round of applause for Jeff. Okay. I'm going to pass things off to Pam for a second. She's going to announce the winner of the People's Choice Award.
Thank you so much. So the People's Choice Award is voted by all of you, which, you know, a lot of you may have a better opinion than some of the people on the stage, or maybe not, but I think you might, because the winner tonight of the People's Choice goes to The Spoon Stealer by Leslie Crew. So I'd like to accept this on behalf of Wasaga Beach Public Library. Thank you to the Academy, thank you to God, and thank you to Jeffrey Snape. We will showcase it with honor. Thank you.
So if you're ever wondering why I can't find my place, it's because my font is yellow and I can't see what I'm trying to read. So just bear with me for one moment. We ran out of ink. Support your public libraries, everybody. Nobody should have to read yellow ink. Okay, let's see. We're moving into round 4, final round between these two lovely defenders. However, just to remind, all 5 defenders are allowed to participate in the free-for-all. So if you have any final words, now is your time to make them clear. Okay, round 4. The topic is character description. Describe the most intriguing character in your book and how that character affects the major events in the book. Charlene, we will start with you.
In Finding the Mother Tree, Suzanne Simard herself is the most intriguing character, because the book is both a personal memoir and it's a scientific journey. Suzanne is compelling as a character because her relentless curiosity and her determination to uncover the hidden lives of forests. She faces skepticism from the scientific community, personal hardships, and the physical demands of her fieldwork. Her perseverance through these obstacles makes her even more intriguing as a character, as readers are invited into her intellectual and emotional struggles. Her discoveries about tree communication and the interconnectedness of forest ecosystems are closely tied to her character traits, her sensitivity to nature, her resilience, and her willingness to think outside the box. Suzanne is not just a narrator or an observer. She is an active participant in the unfolding story of the forest. Her passion for trees and her understanding of the complexities of the natural world make it easy for readers to share in her enthusiasm and become invested in her journey. Thank you.
So who is the main character that I would discuss here? It was a toss-up. Would it be Emmeline Darling, the main character in the book? Or I was really, really tempted to go with Vera. And as much as I really wanted to go with Vera, I went with Emmeline. She's a 74-year-old woman. She's intelligent, she's smart, she's empathetic, she's humorous, she's inquisitive, and to some extent she's an outcast from society, both in her own home in Nova Scotia and in the UK, where as a lesbian and a foreigner and a wild thing, she didn't fit that time period. When and where she affects things in the book, she either causes that situation or is responding to that situation, those events. She's the raison d'etre, after all, for the title. Everything is centered on her. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call this round 4.5 the final case. The last 2 defenders have 2 minutes each to make their final passionate plea in favor of their book. So again, we'll start with Charlene.
Okay, Finding the Mother Tree is a game changer, and it absolutely deserves to win. It changes the way that we understand our natural world. Her discoveries challenge the long-held view that nature is solely about competition, instead revealing a complex web of collaboration. Her work has profound implications for how we manage forests, combat climate change, preserve biodiversity. But what really makes this book special is how she intertwines her scientific insights with her personal tales of resilience, family, and the deep spiritual bond that we all share with nature. Every Canadian should read Finding the Mother Tree, because our country's vast forests are not just resources, they're living communities that sustain us in ways that we're only beginning to understand. Her message resonates beyond science. It speaks to the importance of empathy, community, and the interconnectedness of all living things. In a time when our planet's health hangs in balance, Finding the Mother Tree shines through as a beacon of hope. It shows us nature herself holds the solutions we need if we're only willing to listen. For Canadians, this book is an essential read. It reminds us that our forests are not just symbols of our national identity, but vibrant, breathing systems that we must cherish and protect for generations to come. Let's celebrate this transformative work and ensure it gets the recognition it truly deserves. Thank you.
I have to say that Finding the Mother Tree to me was somewhat of an egotistical autobiography. It wasn't a book I picked up in order to get entertainment. It was something that was there, and yes, there's a lot of good stuff in it. As a gardener myself, particularly in the past, I grew orchids. I'm very familiar with the concept of dependent evolution. For example, there are orchids where only one bee can pollinate the orchid because the flower has developed in order to allow only that insect in and no other. And I see the same thing in gardens. There are orchids that grow wild in Canada. If you dig them up and take them home, they're going to die because they have to have a particular sorry, I'm 80, I'm losing it almost. A particular bacterium, that's the word I'm looking for, in order to be able to develop roots. So to me, the book was past due. I'd already read, I already know those kind of things. So it didn't appeal to me at all, I have to say. I'm extremely sorry. But it just did not appeal to me at all, and I had a real struggle to get through the whole thing. So thank you. It's down to us.
Okay, thank you both. The final words from our final two defenders. We will now move into the last free-for-all. So 3 minutes total. All 5 defenders get to participate. So let's begin round 4.
Okay, I think it's like a your book. All right, so the first part I found, okay, it was interesting, but that was, again, it was in the UK. Then she came back to Canada, and she's at a farm in Nova Scotia. It doesn't really talk about the farm, it just talks about a dysfunctional family. So to me, there's not really anything distinctly Canadian. It was just excessively sentimental. It made me feel like a book trying to be too heartwarming, but became cliche and repetitive. So I would just say that, and there is also 40 characters in it that were sort of completely underdeveloped, and I wish she had spent more time with Vera developing that character versus the other characters. So it seems that it's a nice book who has good friends, and if that's what you want, you can, you know, and you don't want to read about complex characters, then that's great.
I'll jump in. If you haven't read any of these 5 books, I really recommend that you pick one and take it home. They're all just really, truly readable books, and they all have a good value. I'm going to lean toward The Spoon Stealer, sentimental though it may be. I thought it was well written. I thought the Emmeline character was very compelling, and sort of like our very own Auntie Mame. That was my take.
There was a comment made earlier that you wouldn't remember the character. And while we were all having a tipple there and a little bit to eat, a number of people spoke to me and said, that was absolutely garbage. That she's going to be with me for life. I know Emmeline is going to be with me for life. Right? How could I possibly forget her? Other than that, I've said it all. There are only 2 of us left. Your call, audience, but I implore you to choose my selection, The Spoon Stealer by Leslie Crew, for the best book of this year's Georgian Bay Reads in this wonderful new library of ours. I get to come here every day. Some of you don't. I urge you, if you haven't already done so, to read all 5 titles, as well as any further works. The first thing I did was go out and check out 3 more books by Leslie Crew to find out whether that was an accident or whether it was deliberate. As well, please consider joining us at Friends of the Library to help ensure that all the programs in this library being considered are made available to our community. And thank you all for coming tonight and listening to me and to our other defenders.
Got some time. Okay, there we go. Okay. And that brings our debate to the end. Good job, everybody. Before we announce a winner, one last round of applause for our lovely 5 defenders and their fantastic book choices. Despite the misconception, the defenders will be voting for their favorite book. So, this round, the opposite. You do not vote for the book you want to vote off. You vote for the book you want to win. So, perhaps you have some idea of who that is in your mind. Would you all like a couple seconds to deliberate amongst yourselves, or?
I assume 2 of us know.
Okay. All right, so we started at the other end, so we'll start with Beth this time. Beth, which book would you like to win?
I went back and looked at the 3 different elements that we debated on or sought collaboration on. And they were 3 words, setting and plot and audience. And based on those 3 elements, I select The Spoon Stealer.
Okay.
Thank you.
I actually liked Spoon Stealer better than Finding the Mother Tree, but I think Marlene did a better job in the debate today, so I'm going to vote for Finding a Mother Tree.
I'm voting for Finding the Mother Tree just because it's the most Canadian book. It's about Canadian forests, and also it's about women and a Canadian hero. So there we go.
I'm voting for The Spoon Stealer because while I enjoyed all 5 books, I thought The Spoon Stealer really brought great characterization to life. And I do remember characters, even characters that I read when I was a child. I don't remember all of them, as my husband will attest, but I remember the ones that are memorable, let's put it that way.
I'm going to do this in stereo. Is anybody surprised at what the result might be? Let's see, we have 2 and 2, do we? A tie? I have to break the tie? Spoon Stealer!
And the Spoon Stealer wins Georgian Bay Reads 2024 and People's Choice Award. Jeffrey really came to clean up tonight. Good job, Jeffrey. And to all of the staff, Pam, tech team, volunteers, big round of applause to libraries in general.
Did everybody see it? Yes. Not the Rock
Before
of
we
Ages.
stop to do some photos, I'd like to thank all of our wonderful defenders. You put so much effort into this. I know how difficult your summer must have been trying to wade through some of these books, write notes, and determine how best to defend yours and potentially rip apart another. Thank you very much to Jita, our moderator today. Fantastic job keeping the conversation lively. Thank you very much to our library reps for helping out today, as well as all our many volunteers and our tech team here from Wasaga Beach Public Library. I'd like to send a special thank you out to Fran O'Donoghue's family for these wonderful flower arrangements. Fran was with us in spirit today, and we appreciate having her here. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming out and joining us for Georgian Bay Reads one more time. We will be back with another Georgian Bay Reads next year. Some fantastic books, some great defenders, and some perfect conversation. So thank you so much for coming tonight. We hope you had a good time. And please keep on reading and visiting your libraries. Thank you.